How much destruction can 1 pound of metal cause in 60 seconds? Not a missile, not a bomb, just a drone, no bigger than a backpack carrying a warhead the size of your fist. It's 2:43 a.m., May 24th, 2025. Somewhere over southern Ukraine, 3 Ukrainian strike drones cut through the dark like silent blades. Their propellers hum against the wind, steady, precise, almost human. Below them, a Russian fuel train crawls through occupied territory, 8 tank cars, half a thousand tons of diesel, enough to power an armored battalion for a week. The soldiers inside the locomotive have no idea they're seconds away from becoming a headline. 30 miles away in a low-lit command shelter, 5 operators watch the feed. Thermal cameras glow white-hot. One heartbeat, one cursor click, and the night will turn into daylight. They know the risks: Russian jammers, radar sweeps, counter-battery fire. But there's no turning back. The window is closing, and every second the train rolls deeper into safety. At 2:44 and 30 seconds, the operator whispers, "Locked." A single finger pushes forward. A screen blinks. And in that frozen second, electricity becomes fire, precision becomes chaos, and silence becomes a roar. The kind of roar that changes everything. The kind that burns so bright, it can be seen from space. The mission wasn't about destruction, it was about precision, the kind that turns chaos into calculation. Somewhere in the occupied south of Ukraine lies a railway line the Russians depend on more than they admit: the Verkhniy Tokmak-Molochansk route. Every night, trains slide through the darkness carrying fuel, ammunition, and the rhythm of war itself. On this particular night, one of them carried over half a thousand tons of diesel, enough to move 2 full battalions or to burn for 3 days straight if it ever went up in flames. For weeks, Ukrainian intelligence had been watching this artery through a web of partisans, farmers by day, ghosts by night. They marked every schedule, every delay, every moment when the line slipped out of Russian radar coverage. From those fragments, a single 15-minute window appeared, the moment when the train would be most alone. That window was all the operators needed. In a dim command room 30 miles away, 5 men prepared for that window to open. Their drones were fueled, armed, and silent modern spears in a digital hunt. No speeches, no shouting, just quiet breaths and the glow of screens. They weren't aiming for glory, they were aiming for a heartbeat on a map, and that heartbeat was moving fast. 5 drones, 5 different heartbeats humming in sync above the sleeping countryside. Each one built from parts never meant for war-scavenged cameras, rewired circuits, firmware rewritten in backrooms by men who learned code before they learned fear. Out front flies the Overwatch, a modified DJI Mavic 3, its Hasselblad eye sharpened by underground firmware that pushes zoom from 28 to 56 times. Its body hums at 42 miles per hour, cruising nearly 4 miles above the earth, cold, invisible, mercilessly calm. Behind it, 3 FPV strike drones follow, armed with shaped charges weighing barely 6 pounds each, but strong enough to pierce half an inch of hardened steel. Their propellers spin at 7,000 revolutions a minute, the sound barely louder than a whisper. In the rear drifts a backup drone, silent and waiting the insurance policy no one ever wants to use. Together, they form a single organism, a living network that sees, thinks, and kills with near-perfect coordination. In the command shelter 30 miles away, 5 operators breathe as one. On their screens, 5 video feeds merge into a single picture, the dark outline of the railway glowing faintly like a pulse under skin. They are ready. The machine has become aware, and soon, the target will glow. From 20 miles out, the Overwatch drone begins to see what no human eye could. Through its FLIR-Boson thermal core, the world below turns to shades of white and black, heat against emptiness, motion against silence. The fields blur into darkness. The trees disappear and only one shape burns bright, a locomotive engine glowing like a beating heart against frozen earth. Every degree matters now. The sensor picks up temperature changes as fine as 1/100th of a degree Fahrenheit. Through the haze, each tank car shows a faint heat gradient, the diesel within slowly breathing warmth. To the operators, it looks almost alive. Encrypted signals pulse between the drones and the bunker, invisible threads of data switching frequencies hundreds of times each second, dodging Russian scanners hunting for noise. On the main screen, the train becomes a living silhouette crawling through the night. The lead operator zooms in, focusing the crosshair on car number 3. Its thermal bloom is steady. Engine RPM stable. Target confirmed. The men say nothing. The only sound is the whisper of the fan inside the control rig and the quiet ticking of a digital clock edging toward Oro 244. The heat signature is locked, and far below, the story of that heat is still being written. Long before the drones ever took flight, the mission began with whispers. Not in command centers or encrypted briefings, but in the quiet hands of people living under occupation. A farmer with cracked fingers counted passing trains while pretending to mend a fence. A shopkeeper near the rail yard memorized schedules between serving soldiers their bread. And somewhere in a dim apartment, a teenage student mapped routes on a smuggled phone, deleting each message seconds after sending. Together, these fragments of courage formed the invisible web the operators depended on. For 72 hours, partisans tracked that fuel convoy, logging when it stopped, when it refueled, when guards changed. Piece by piece, they built the pattern until a single 15-minute gap emerged the window when the train would be farthest from radar and air defense. That was the moment to strike. They knew the risk. Capture meant disappearance. Discovery meant death. But still, they sent the data north, one text, one image, one breath at a time. Because in wars like this, precision isn't born in laboratories. It's built in fear and carried by faith. The coordinates reached the bunker, screens lit up, drones armed, and miles away the digital battlefield prepared to answer the courage of flesh and blood. At 2:44 a.m., the first strike drone breaks formation and dives. The hum of its motors deepens, slicing through the stillness like a blade through glass. Then a pulse. 3 miles away, a Russian Leer-3 jamming truck comes alive, its antennas spinning as it floods the air with raw electromagnetic noise. In seconds, the Ukrainian operator's screens flicker. GPS locks stutter. Warnings flare across their goggles. But this is not chaos, it's the plan. The Ukrainian systems switch to frequency-hopping mode, leaping across 3 separate bands hundreds of times each second. The connection trembles, then stabilizes. The Leer-3 roars, pouring 20 kilowatts of static into the spectrum, but the drones dance between the gaps, invisible, untouchable, alive. For the men in the bunker, it feels like holding their breath inside a thunderstorm. Every packet of data must survive the noise. Every flicker of video is a heartbeat in a battle no one can see. Somewhere in the static, the operator whispers, "Link steady. Target still moving." The frequency war rages for less than a minute, but in that minute, entire futures depend on signal integrity. The air hums, the data flows, and the drones push forward. Because when the sky becomes noise, only silence can guide them home. Then silence in the signal. For a heartbeat, the screens freeze. GPS coordinates flicker, drift, and vanish. The Russian jammers' false satellites flood the sky, feeding the drones lies disguised as guidance. Every instinct screams to abort, but instead the operator leans closer. He knows what's coming next. Inside each aircraft, deep beneath the carbon frame and lithium core, a secondary mind awakens the inertial navigation unit. Tiny accelerometers and gyroscopes record every tremor, every degree of tilt, every whisper of momentum. When GPS dies, physics takes command. The drone no longer sees the world through satellites. It feels it through motion. Each correction is calculated not by signal, but by inertia, by truth written in acceleration and gravity. In the command shelter, the operators watch in awe as the feed stabilizes. The drone flies blind but steady, as if guided by instinct. The onboard camera recognizes the glint of steel below locks onto the curve of the third fuel car. Even without light, without guidance, without certainty, the path remains clear. In modern war, faith isn't in gods or luck. It's in math momentum and the hands that refuse to let go. The drone is blind, but it's still coming home. 02:44 and 30 seconds. The drone descends in a final silent dive, nose down, propellers screaming at 7,000 RPM. The crosshairs tremble once, then lock. In the command bunker, the operator exhales a breath measured in years of training. "Impact," he whispers. A fraction of a second later, the sky answers. The 5.7-pound tungsten-lined warhead strikes the third fuel car at over 90 miles per hour. The shaped charge detonates instantly, compressing energy into a single point no wider than a coin. In that moment, physics performs its cruel art. Molten gas jets at 25,000 feet per second pierce half an inch of steel, igniting vaporized diesel inside. Temperatures leap past 4,500 degrees Celsius. The explosion blooms like sunrise. A shockwave rips through the air, scattering dust and flame, bending trees in its wake. Through the drone's dying feed, the thermal camera captures a white blossom expanding across the black landscape, silent, then deafening, then gone. The men in the bunker stare at their screens, faces lit by the glow of combustion. No one speaks. One strike, one perfect equation solved in fire. But precision has a chain reaction, and this one has only just begun. Within 15 seconds, the equation multiplies. Fire leaps through the equalization vents, linking each tank car, turning steel into veins of flame. The first explosion births another and another until the entire convoy becomes a single burning organism, alive and feeding on its own fuel. The second drone dives through the smoke, guided by the infrared shimmer of metal that hasn't yet melted. Car number 6, still intact, becomes the next target. The strike hits clean, a twin detonation that merges with the first. Diesel erupts again, the two fireballs folding into one merging heat with velocity. Then the third drone comes in from the west, the final blow. Car number 8 ignites, completing the sequence. 560 tons of fuel ignite in a single chain reaction. The heat creates its own weather system, drawing oxygen into a spiraling column that climbs nearly 700 feet into the sky. The night becomes day. Flames roar like jet engines. Debris rains down across the fields, fragments of rail, twisted bolts, and molten shards of the train that once was. In the bunker, no one moves. They've seen victory before, but never beauty this violent. And as the fire consumes everything, the ground beneath begins to deform, the rail itself starting to twist under the weight of its own defeat. When the fire finally begins to die, the silence feels heavier than the noise that came before it. The train is gone, replaced by a long, molten scar running across the countryside. Steel rails, once straight as truth, now twist like ribbons under the weight of heat. Wooden ties have burned to dust, their shapes imprinted as ghostly outlines on the ground. The tracks shimmer in the night, still glowing red in places, warping with each breath of hot wind. Diesel fumes linger, mixing with the scent of scorched earth and iron. In the distance, the echo of collapsing cars rolls like thunder, fading into memory. From above, the landscape looks surgical, precise devastation. A single strike team, a handful of drones, and 30 minutes of flight time have done what artillery couldn't in weeks. The Verkhniy Tokmak-Molochansk line, once an artery of Russian logistics, lies paralyzed. Repair will take weeks, maybe longer, if the skies remain hostile. Inside the bunker, the monitors show only smoke and static. The operators sit in silence, their eyes reflecting the same orange glow that burns on screen. No one cheers, no one smiles. They all understand what precision costs and what it saves. Because when the rail broke, the war itself shifted by inches. The fire fades, but its reflection stays etched in every lens, every retina, every silent memory that watched it happen. 5 drones, 30 minutes of flight, less than $40,000 in parts, and yet an entire supply artery erased from the map. In the command shelter, the operators sit beneath the dim blue glow of their monitors. Their screens show nothing now, just drifting smoke and broken signal. One of them takes off his headset. Another rubs his eyes. No celebration, no victory music, just the quiet hum of equipment cooling down and the faint echo of something that sounds like relief or guilt. Outside, dawn begins to crawl across the horizon, soft gold indifferent. The same light that once touched steel now glints on ash. Birds return to a sky that still smells of war. The world keeps turning as if precision never left a mark. But it did. in ways that can't be measured in footage or coordinates. Because every precise strike carries an echo of the minds that built it, the hands that guided it, and the silence that follows after. War isn't won by noise anymore. It's won by calculation, patience, and the courage to disappear when the job is done. Precision burned bright that night, the war less so.